Hello friends, my name is Arya. Welcome to Kids Book Buddy. So today's book is gonna be The Invisible You. Let's start eating. The Invisible You. Everything about Howard's new neighborhood was different. The streets were different. The houses were different, the yards were different, the kids were different, and for the first time in his life, Howard felt like he was different. Different from everything and everyone around him. Howard stood in front of his new school. He held his mother's hand and offered a shaky smile to the faces staring back at him. Howard had a habit of noticing people. He found one girl's freckles fascinating and another's beaded braids hard to ignore. There was also a boy with greenish cat-like eyes. Howard almost forgot where he was and what he was doing. Almost. As the kaleidoscope of kids captured Howard's attention, he lowered his eyes. He knew he wasn't supposed to stare. He knew he wasn't supposed to be noticing these things. He knew his parents never talked about people's differences, so he figured he shouldn't either. Howard barely heard his mother ask, "You okay, bud?" A quick was all he could muster as he dragged his feet toward the door. He longed for his old school where everything had been normal. His classroom, his teachers, his friends, and himself. Biting his lips, Howard entered the classroom. The teacher, Miss Sims, smiled and led him to a table with 3 children he recognized from outside the school. The boy's name was Irving, and the 2 girls were Bernie and Georgiana. The class was in the middle of independent reading, so Miss Sims told Howard he could browse the classroom library for a book. Before getting up, Howard couldn't help but sneak a peek at his new table mates. Irving's skin was a sandy buttermilk. He was busy reading a thick chapter book. His green eyes zipped past difficult words as his eyebrows raised and lowered with each sentence. Howard sighed. Irving's book looked much harder and more interesting than the easy chapter books he was used to reading. Howard just knew he wasn't going to fit in. Bernie's skin was a freaky blend of soft caramel rye, and Georgiana's was a rich charcoal spice. The girls were too busy giggling and sharing a book to notice Howard as he tried to figure out what was so funny. He frowned. They've probably been friends since kindergarten, he thought. At that moment, he wondered what his old classmates were up to as an ache spread through his heart, filling him with dread. Howard reluctantly chose a book from the shelf. He was only a few sentences in when Miss Sims called the class to attention. "Boys and girls, as you know, We have a new student starting today. Howard shrunk as all eyes fell upon him. Could you come up, Howard, and share a few things about yourself so we can get to know you better? Oh, great, Howard thought as his hands began to sweat. His mouth dried out and his knees started to shake. Howard wasn't exactly sure where to begin. His cheeks felt hot and his mind raced to think of something to say. His silence was met with giggles that were stopped with a stern look from Miss Sims. Sharing about yourself can be hard, she said, especially in front of people you don't know. She smiled at Howard. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the invisible you. Howard's face scrunched. The what? The invisible you, Miss Sims encouraged. As you can see, each of us is unique. We have different skin colors, hair types, and eye shapes and shades. You've probably noticed differences in us, and we've noticed differences in you. Noticing is normal. Howard's eyes shifted. No adult had ever spoken directly to him about people's differences or about what lived inside his heart. Was it a trick? What kind of a teacher talks about this? Miss Sims continued. But these differences aren't what make us who we are. We also have an invisible part of ourselves that's impossible for others to get to know without asking questions. The invisible you is made up of our likes, dislikes, the things that are important to us, and the things we do. Howard looked down at his feet. I'm not sure. I raised my mealworms as pets and have the biggest insect collection on my block, erupted Georgiana. I'm afraid of Georgie's insect collection, squeaked Irving. Georgiana rolled her eyes. I'm serious! This time giggles were muted, but Miss Sims allowed the class to continue sharing. I live with my grandparents who only speak Japanese, added Bernie. Howard never would have guessed. After several more students shared, Miss Sims raised her eyebrows and gently looked at Howard. Howard took a deep breath. He wasn't sure he knew what to say, but he also knew that he had to say something. At this point, anything was better than silence. He wavered. Well, he breathed. I like mysteries, he offered. Irving's green eyes lit up as his fingers linked to show a connection had been made. Howard continued, and I used to play soccer on Saturdays in my old neighborhood at the park. He saw Bernie and Georgiana look at each other excitedly and smile. Thank you for sharing, Howard, Miss Sims said. We can't wait to learn more about you and share about the invisible us in the days ahead. The rest of Howard's day raced by in a blur. He found out during writing time that Irving was writing a mystery and had decided to include Howard as a character. At recess, he discovered that Bernie and Georgiana were on the traveling soccer team, and they knew some of the same kids from Howard's old school. That's cool. On the walk home from school, Howard took a new look at his new neighborhood. Sensing the spring in his step, his mother asked, "So, how was your day?" "It was great," he said. "Mom, do you know you have an invisible you?" Her eyebrows raised. "I do?" Howard told his mother everything he had learned that day. He couldn't wait to go back to school and see his new friends. Everything was different, but as his teacher had said, differences are normal. And for Howard, normal is good. The end.